Roman, I'm sure by any standards, the stuff with Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin has to be a shock to you.
Yeah, it is. It was a shock initially, but obviously when you keep peeling the layers off, as a guy who played in the locker room and spent most of his life in a locker room, college and pro, it wasn't as shocking. But what was more shocking to me was what led to that. And I think the bottom line is, Mike, there's a pecking order and there's a hierarchy in the NFL locker room that prevents things from going that far. And what Richie Incognito did was wrong, was awful, was racist, and all those words. But to say that no one knew anything, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Well, take us into an NFL locker room. Obviously, if a young guy's in and he's there with the veterans, and they want to toughen him up, what is the protocol? Are we talking code red, for a few good men? Are we talking something that severe?
Well, I think it's, there's a societal cultural shift to want to know everything. They want to know what goes on everywhere. Fans want more access. But there are also some codes, and I've played with guys like Richie Incognito that at some point along the way where the guy takes it upon himself to harass and bully a player, somebody has to go, hey bro, that's don't lay off the kid. He's going to help us win one day. Something. And Cameron Wake and one of those guys should have said something. It's unfortunate that in the order that exists, again, the hierarchy that exists, it basically wasn't handled either quite early by a coach, a strength coach, an assistant coach, other veterans. Should not have let this get out of hand, no matter what Richie Incognito's history was.
And talk about the Miami coach, Joe Philbin. Do you think any of this could have gone on without him being fully aware of what was going on?
Well, yeah, of course it would have, because as a coach, administratively, you've got to run your team. But I go back to Herman just said this, a lot of people have said this. You've got assistant coaches, strength coaches who know everything, the video guys, the trainers. You've got other veterans on the team. You're talking about an offensive line to offensive line thing. There's 10 guys in that meeting room that have discussions when they work out. And for this to go on for a year and a half, even the extortion, the numbers don't add up on no pun intended, but the numbers don't add up on the extortion issue with the 15 grand. There's a lot of things that I think are still yet to come out about this incident. But obviously, Joe Philbin, it falls on his hands because he's responsible, but I don't think he obviously was not aware of the day-to-day.
And of course, with the Miami's management in there, how does something like this slip through the Players Association as well? Shouldn't Martin have gone to the Players Association first before just leaving the team like this?
I don't agree with that at all. You don't go to the PA. The PA protects players' benefits and rights. Again, this is a player-to-player incident that should have been handled between those two players. Before Richie Incognito called and left those messages, those comments and a text, and some point along the way, after the donuts and whatever rookie duties Jonathan Martin had, somewhere after that, before it got to this, there were about 10 different levels of scrutiny, of harassment, of bullying that should have been stopped. And it's an unwritten rule, and I'm speaking to you as a guy who played in the NFL, spent 17 years of my life in the locker room, college and pro, not as a guy who works for a school, not as a business person, not in corporate America. As a football player, this should have been handled by somebody or someone before it got to this point, and I will always hold that position.
What about some NFL players are saying Jonathan Martin basically should have just smacked Richie in the mouth and just stood up for himself instead of doing what he's doing now? Do you agree with something like that?
Well, I think there's a culture of thought that believes in that, but I don't think Jonathan Martin isn't that kind of person. I think that's also what led Richie Incognito to bully him. Let's be honest. If Ndamukong Suh was in the locker room of the Miami Dolphins as a rookie, I don't think Richie Incognito was doing that to Ndamukong Suh. So, and it's nothing against the victim, and I'm not pointing the finger at the victim, but again, this victim, so to speak, was a Division I athlete at a major university, a major institution, and I would have thought at some point along the way there was a culture that existed in that environment that could have stopped this, prevented this from going that far.
Roman, obviously you're an intelligent guy. You got your master's degree as well. Do you think part of the problem here with Jonathan is that he went to a Stanford and maybe he's mentally, intellectually a little bit above his players, so asking him to punch Richie in the mouth is maybe something below him?
No, I mean, look, he's not the first guy to come out of Stanford to play in the NFL. I played a guy by the name of John Lynch who went to Stanford, and he was one of the toughest guys I knew and one of the smartest. So, the rumors that you've heard are the whole dichotomy of how this guy grew up. He went to Westlake, Harvard Westlake High School in North Hollywood, and then obviously Richie Incognito is more of a blue-collar guy, and that sometimes is a formula in a locker room for one guy questioning whether another guy's tough enough to be in the NFL versus the guy who grew up rough, grew up with a hard past. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know because I haven't investigated to that point. But going to Stanford doesn't mean anything. I mean, there's Stanford historically. I mean, John Elway was tough. I mean, John Lynch. I mean, I'm talking about older guys, but I mean, the way Stanford plays football now, they don't run and spill the ball and run out of bounds. They don't run spread. They line up, they run eye, they hardball. I mean, that system that Dave Shaw has now, it's a system that's based on what Alabama is doing, what the SEC is doing. It's not a system for soft, smart, intelligent football players. So I disagree with that.
In your estimation, does Richie Incognito find a job in the NFL again, and does Jonathan Martin, or are they both taboo?
I think it'll be harder for Jonathan Martin to find a job because now I think there'll be a question in mind of how he handles adversity in the locker room. This is a guy you can't frazzle. This is a guy, what's he really going to be like on 3rd and 10 when the pressure's against him and someone calls him out and someone uses it next to it during the game? I mean, how does he handle that adversity at a moment when you just got to react and not analyze and critique, but Richie Incognito, I think it really becomes up to a team to say they want it back. Now, in light of Riley Cooper, Pac-Man Jones, the list goes on and on, Michael Vick, obviously. I mean, those people have all had second chances, so I don't think it's without a doubt that Richie Incognito doesn't get a chance to be an offensive lineman again. Now, maybe not at the high price that I don't know what his salary was, but I think he becomes a veteran minimum guy in the league.
Aren't we at a time in society that we need to stop using the N-word, even if it's amongst friends? Don't we really need to respect the travesties that people have gone through? Don't we need to stop using that word?
Well, I agree 100%, and I think it starts with African American culture and how it's that word is shared with each other. It starts, and it's Jay-Z said that he took the power out of the word and made it more of an endearing term, so that there's no power because there's no word for Jewish Americans, white Americans, or whatever Irish. That's that painful. So this idea that to use the N-word in as an endearing term removes the power of the word. I don't agree with that. And then whether it's rap music or whatever, I mean, people are smart enough to know when and when not to use that word. And words shouldn't be that powerful, but unfortunately, it's still America. I mean, it's 2013, but that word still means something, and it still is a damaging and a hurtful word to use.
And we're with Roman Oben, former Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Roman, just finally get your thoughts. The hazing stuff and code reds, whatever you want to call them, what were any of your experiences early on coming in first as a rookie and then later on as a veteran? Were you asked to kind of toughen people up along the way, and what did you do?
I mean, as a rookie, I had a responsibility. Me and Amani Toomer, Amani Toomer and I were rookies together. We had to get the donuts, the bagels or whatever on Fridays on the road. You have to go get Popeyes for your position group when you're about to get on a plane. I mean, those are just things you have to do. In no way was I ever put in a position where I was just threatened or challenged as a man. And this is in 1996, obviously, when there were no bullying or anti-bullying codes out there. And on the receiving end, on the giving end, anything other than what quote unquote what a guy deserved because he was a rookie, Anything more that has nothing to do with football, has nothing to do with team cohesiveness, and I never really advocated.
Where does the NFL go from here? Do they take a strong interest in this, or this just died down and we go about business as usual?
No, I mean, obviously, anytime a new incident happens, or especially something of this magnitude, you have to believe that it's going to change the culture in the way that things are evaluated. I mean, the NFL might even you might even see some anti-hazing, anti-bullying act. But I hope that every team still manages how they deal with that. I mean, fans want to see Hard Knocks, they want to see all these things, but then they can't handle the truth, quote unquote. They can't handle a show about what's going on in the locker room on HBO, a guy crying and a rookie holding a microphone, which is, a big cucumber with two plums next to it, looking like the general. I mean, remember the Dallas, that happens, but we want to watch this stuff, and then we want to say, oh my God, I can't believe these guys behave this way. Well, this isn't working at IBM, this isn't working at Microsoft or being a teacher. It's football, but going too far is going too far, and the bottom line is that's what Richie Incognito did. Unfortunately, this has made everyone peel back the layers of bullying, hazing, rookie duties, what have you, and really microanalyze it. So that's unfortunately where we are.
And I remember talking to former Bears offensive lineman, also former with the NFLPA, Damergis, and for you guys, NFL players, playing in an NFL game is like getting in a mini car wreck every week. And, the average fan doesn't understand the mentality that goes into preparing for life in the NFL.
Yeah, you're right. And, they absolutely don't. I mean, you can have all the access and the camera phones and fan experiences and all that, but until you've been through a training camp, until you've had to deal with the pressures of competing for a position and dealing with things from the outside, your family, fans only look at it one way as fans, as connoisseurs of the sport, consumers of the sport, of the product, but until you're inside, you'll never truly know what it's like.